Keep on riding with us as we continue to broadcast the balance and defend the discourse from the Hip Hop Weekly studios. Welcome back to Civic Cipher. I am your host, Ramses Ja. Big shout out to my brother, Q Ward, who I know was supposed to be back in the studio, but he will be back soon, I promise. We are working all that out, but we are in good hands. We are joined by Sharen Sierra King, journalist, public speaker, and former radio host, life member of the NCNW as well as NAACP, where she is actively engaged in public policy advocacy, voter protection efforts, and racial justice initiatives at both the local and national levels. And also a resident of Lincoln Heights, Ohio, the place that is making national headlines for the Nazi demonstrations and the community response. And we will be discussing that community's response during this part of the show. So stick around for that and so much more, because this is such an interesting conversation that a lot of people are able to learn from. But before we get there, it is time to discuss BA, Becoming a Better Ally, BABA. In today's BABA, we're going to share from the website of libertybank.net. Yeah, that's right. We're talking about money today. All right. In 1972, Liberty Bank and Trust Company was chartered in New Orleans, Louisiana, with a focus on service, integrity, and a sincere interest in community and business development. Over 5 decades later, Liberty Bank and Trust has over $1 billion in assets and branches in 11 states, making it the largest Black or African-American owned financial institution in the United States. Liberty Bank's growth has been the result of acquisitions, fruitful partnerships, aggressive marketing, strong management, staff productivity, and the trust it enjoys in the community. It all adds up to an efficient, well-capitalized institution that is perfectly positioned to continue fast-paced growth in both profits and assets. Liberty Bank has been serving its communities for over 50 years with a commitment to exceptional customer service, personalized solutions, and community involvement. They are passionate about helping more people achieve more freedom. There's real freedom there. The freedom you have as an individual to attain your goals, as a business to achieve your idea of success, or even as a community that is gathering strength to reach its full potential. Read more about them at Forbes, Business Insider, Business Wire, Fortune Magazine. It's a long list, and they are making headlines, and that's why we wanted to highlight them again for our Baba segment. Again, you can find out more at libertybank.net. And for those of you interested in finding a new financial institution, our call to action here is that you give Liberty Bank your consideration. We have done our best to vet them. Again, Forbes, Business Insider, Business Wire, Fortune. It's a much longer list than that. You don't need to even take our word for it. You can, definitely read about them with some of those more reputable financial institutions and hopefully make the right decision. All right. Back to you.
I can endorse Liberty Bank.
Okay, good.
Yes,
good. I love that.
I am a member of
All right.
Bank.
I love that. Okay, perfect. That's some serendipity for you right there. All right. We've been having a conversation about Nazis marching on Lincoln Heights. In my opinion, a disgusting display of white supremacy. And the police's response, which in many people's opinions was simply to provide cover for the Nazis.
Yes.
And now we're going to discuss the community's response to those two elements.
Oh.
The Nazis' initial move to try to intimidate this black town.
Yes.
And the police's do-nothing approach to,
hate.
Hate. Thank you. There it is. That was way simpler. So I want to share a bit of a story, and then we'll have a conversation about the community response, because it turns out that community is quite resilient. And, I'm not a big fan of, historically on this show, I'm not a fan of guns. I'm not a fan of violence. I'm not a fan of, it's not my thing. My heart just doesn't, it's not in my heart that way. Q, on the other hand, he's got a little bit more room for that, yeah. Right? And that's okay. That's okay. It
There's
takes
a
both
place
of us.
for all of us.
Right. But allow me to share this story and get everyone brought up to speed. Okay. This from Newsweek. Residents of a majority black town in Ohio have reportedly launched an armed patrol for their protection after criticizing the police response to a neo-Nazi demonstration in February. The Cincinnati suburb of Lincoln Heights garnered national attention after a neo-Nazi group waving swastika flags and hurling racial slurs demonstrated on a highway overpass on the edge of the community on February 7th. The incident sparked outrage, with residents at a town hall questioning why officers from the neighboring village of Evandale and deputies from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office who responded to the incident made no citations or arrests. They expressed concerns that they would not be safe if another similar incident occurred. Residents then stated the Lincoln Heights Safety and Watch Program. They then started the Lincoln Heights Safety and Watch Program. I hope I say this right. Durrance Daniels. Durrance Daniels, okay.
Whose name resonates throughout the valley as well. His grandfather was one of our associate pastors.
Okay. So
everybody knows everybody.
He's him. Okay, good. So, all right. So I'll continue. Durrance Daniels, the Watch Group spokesperson, told the Washington Post in February that residents took up arms shortly after the neo-Nazis left, and community leaders formed the program in order to organize them. The program coordinates about 70 guards who watch the roads leading into the town and go on armed patrols, the Post reported. Ohio law allows anyone legally permitted to own a gun to open carry without a permit. The group also patrols near bus stops to make sure students go to school safely, according to an NBC News report. So, again, I'm not a fan of guns. I historically on this show, I have said, I'm not gonna hide from this now. I'm gonna tell you how much I love this, but I'm not gonna hide from it. Okay. Guns exist to end life. That's it. That's the nature of the deployment of that device. It's not a knife where you can carve something with it, prepare food. No, it's just to end life. And I don't believe that my purpose, I was not created to end life, right? So for me personally, my decision, that's not right. When it's my time, it'll be my time. I will live my life well. And when my time comes, I will look at it like a man, and I will face that moment and hopefully live that moment well too. However, I love this. I love it. Oh my God, I love it so much, right?
Oh my God.
Because, there's something to be said about people who do feel like guns are for protection.
Right.
I historically have pushed back against that narrative, because if someone has the drop on you, something that's more protective is a bulletproof vest, right? If protection is the name of the game. But en masse, this display certainly does provide a preventative form of protection, right? And as a fan of the Panthers, from Oakland, right? I'm a fan of the Panthers. These great leaders, these great movements in history, I, like you, was made to learn about them.
Yes.
From my father, Dr. Rudolph Wayne Taylor, who's a minister, and as we discussed in the first part of the show, the church is again the cultural watering hole for a lot of Black communities. So in Compton, California, Greater Grace Memorial Church of God in Christ was that.
I hear you.
Right. But also, there are people like Dr. Camilla Westenberg, my teacher in college, who was also a member of the NCNW, who made sure that I learned about the Panthers and about the misinformation and disinformation campaigns from the government, what the Panthers stood for and stood on. The Panthers they did not exist to harm people. They existed to protect people. And that's what they did largely.
Feed our children.
Exactly. And because there is such a deep-rooted hatred that is emboldened by the political administrations of the time, or even this current administration, because there's a deep-seated fear of Black people gaining too much relative to white people, that violence often erupts from that phenomenon, not from Black people just owning guns and patrolling their own streets. And so I wanted to make sure that I stated that. Now, I want to let you go right now, because these are your people. These are your people. Okay. So let me get you started. Is this the right response?
It was the right response for the moment. Because if you do not show it, I believe, coming from the upbringing I came from, yes, we had peaceful marches. Yes, we had peaceful pastors sharing what we should be doing as a collaborative. But at that moment in time, my babies were coming from school.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
2:30, getting off the bus. If not then when? Now, I no longer own a gun, but my mother had a gun on her at all times.
Okay.
Traveling back and forth to Selma, Alabama, where we lived. It just was a matter of fact. My mother was the epitome of a Black Panther as far as that. She was a high yellow, red hair, come from Selma, raised by her grandfather who kept a shotgun, by him at all times.
Yeah.
Now, do I believe in the carry and just going into restaurants? No, but here in Arizona, it happens all the time. I was at the doctor's office, guy was holstering his 45.
Yeah.
And that is the state we now live in. Now, I am a proponent of protection. And if it takes patrolling your neighborhood, because they're still coming in there. I could show you a picture where they've been throwing all this literature around about the KK. Literature can't hurt me, but their guns can.
Okay.
And for me, when it comes to my elders, my community in general, but my elders and my babies, at all cost. I'm willing to lay down my life because I was only raised to make sure that I did everything I could. I'm a peaceful protester, but I am literally arming myself with the information to do the work as a public policy advocate. I go to DC, I go to the state capitals, I go advocating for the funds for the health departments, the state health departments. They look at me like, okay, Sharen, whatever, but no, all of this matters. If we have healthy communities, then we can have a thriving community. If we have collaboration with partners who see us in affordable housing, as I mentioned, Avondale has their grocery store. Lincoln Heights had everything they needed within Lincoln Heights. Grocery stores, butchers, they had wood makers, I hired from my home in Kentucky, I hired a granite man whose sons didn't want to learn it, but he did all my stonework. We had everything. And we were cut off. They annexed the land around Lincoln Heights to commercial, so we couldn't expand. So that's how I feel about what they're doing with the hate groups. They are cutting us off. They are demeaning us or attempting to demean us. So yeah, the movement to patrol and protect our citizens is real and it's necessary at this time.
Yeah.
Because we cannot depend on the Avondale police. I talked to Carlton Collins, the co-founder of the Heights movement, yesterday, and they've been waiting for 3 days from a response from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. 3 days for a response to a meeting that happened this past week, where there were a drone, 11 police cars, and they wanded you before you came into your own community council meeting. They arrested a young man. Now, I don't want to throw anybody underneath the bus, but somebody made a complaint because they wanted to bring their guns in. Well, I've gone to places where you have to leave your gun outside. The blues place downtown where the bikers go, they lay down their colors and they leave their guns outside. I'm not one to tell anyone what to do with their gun, but there was a complaint and the sheriff and the Hamilton County Sheriff showed up in force. Where was that force when we were being intimidated?
By the Nazis, yeah.
Where was that force?
Yeah.
The Avondale police officer helped load the U-Haul with their equipment and their flags. I would never touch that flag. Never.
Yeah.
So where was that force? And if I wasn't there, I know that the council meeting, the Lincoln Heights council meeting was disruptive, and that the Hamilton County Sheriff Department was out. They had a drone. Lincoln Heights is this big. The council meeting is in a building smaller than your home. And they showed up like that.
Well, this display. Well, let me make sure that I clarify a couple things too. I know that for me, guns are not for me.
Not for me.
I wish that we lived in a world where nobody needed them. I've been fortunate enough to travel around the world, and there are plenty of countries where nobody has a gun.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nobody has a gun. The police don't have guns. Nobody
don't have guns.
I've been to places where only the police have guns, but they keep it in the trunk of their car, right? I've been to places where everybody has guns, but police have guns, and they keep their guns in the trunk of their car, and they have to make a call to get it out and blah, blah, so that no one gets accidentally killed, right? There's responsible rules. So I've been to all these places. I just know that no matter where I live, for me, I don't think that I was put here to end a life. For other people, I recognize that this is kind of a part of our nature, our history. You know what I mean? Like, we've going all the way back to the beginning. We have killed each other. That's just a part. So do other species too. So it's perhaps just a part of nature, and it may be inescapable. Folks could argue that. That's not where I'm trying to go with this. I do feel like, however, with this particular display, those masks that I saw in the article, the black people masked up with the tactical gear and the bulletproof vests and the huge guns, walking children across the street, black children across the street. I believe that is necessarily intimidating. It is a display that suggests, all right, well, if you want it, I got it. And if you want to try me, come try me. And that, I think, switches the narrative from these are people who are vulnerable and we can go and pick on them, and we can go and further marginalize and subjugate them and diminish their capacity to push back. It changes the narrative from that to, okay, these people need to be respected. We need to be very careful how we go about trying to intimidate them, or we should probably leave these people alone. And that's a more favorable position to be in, given this current administration. We can get back to the kumbayas and stuff once we get to the table. To the table. Thank you.
Once will you allow us to the table?
Right, back to the table.
Back to the table, and have fair. We've never had fair and equal.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, and I think because they came dressed like that, we need to meet them
dressed like that.
Exactly.
And I love that, because there's been a lot of complaints about, Democrats, to kick this up a level to politics. There's been a lot of complaints about Democrats and their response to Republicans holding all the levers of government. And it feels to a lot of people quite limp-wristed. And I do recognize that there's a lot of nuance there. I don't want to pick on Democrats unnecessarily. And I do want to make sure that I do acknowledge that there are at least more than one Republican person who we don't see the world the same way, but they're trying to do the right thing by black folks, the Constitution, et cetera. They just feel how they feel, whatever. But in terms of like the way that this political administration has really stripped from the federal level a lot of the progress that black people had been pursuing,
and the state,
and there you go, that too. Yeah. Kind of where we are is let's use what we can where we are when we can right now, right? And if at present it's still legal for black folks to bear arms because we're still considered citizens,
so far.
But that's what I mean. If that's still the truth for us, then where we are right now, using what we can right now, that feels viable. In the same way that, and I was going to ask you about this, in the same way that boycotting feels viable. One of the things that has come not from Democrats specifically, but from, we'll say, more progressive minds has been, okay, well, if all these corporations are going to bend the knee to Donald Trump when they don't need to.
They don't have to.
Right.
At all.
And they have short memories, apparently, because they don't realize that presidencies only last 4 years and black people last forever and have been here forever. So you made a strange bedfellow of this president. Yes. But if that's how you feel, again, more progressive minds have kind of called for boycotts of, Amazon's, of course, Target, Walmart's, etc. And so I want to get your thoughts on that too.
Well, I want to backtrack for just a moment. Donald Trump thinks he's going to be president forever. Forget the 4 years. Forget the 4 years. So he does believe he's going to be our next dictator. He's
there's no such thing as forever for humans.
Especially for him.
Yeah.
But on the boycott side, yes. I love to go back to my roots because that's who I am today in a more progressive manner. But the churches have always boycotted, going back to, post-slavery. It was a way for us. And if you look at Dr. King Jr.'s book, Community or Chaos, where do we go from here? He mentions that we need to go back because we really didn't do it well enough. And he lays out a platform, and I give this book to everyone I can. I mean, I gift it to them. He lays out
what's the name of it?
Community or Chaos, where do we go from here? And it's his last book, and his wife did the foreword to it.
Okay.
But if we do not boycott with our voices and our dollars, then without a gun, where else do we have?
I love that. You know what? It's crazy because there are people who will invest in a system that's oppressing them. There are black people who are still on Twitter. I'm gonna say that again. There are black people who are still on Twitter. They don't want to walk away from their Twitter followers.
Oh.
And to me, I'm like, okay, well, you're investing in your own oppression.
Death.
Thank you, death. And not just what's taking place in Lincoln Heights in terms of the community's response, but these boycotts, this exercising of what freedoms we still do enjoy, to spend our dollars and invest where the soil is fertile, yes, and to deny. And I'm very petty, and I hold grudges so well. And I kind of love it.
Know yourself.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll leave it right there. I would love to thank you for taking the time to come up and talk to us. Before you go, is there any social media, any websites, anything like that you want?
It's really simple to find me. Even though on Twitter, I don't use Twitter, but I take my name on everything. Okay. So no one can use my name. So it's Sharen Sierra, Sharen, S like Sam, Ierra. If you Google Sharen Sierra, then you'll find me across my platforms, and look for a podcast coming soon. I'm returning back to
media.
Returning back to media.
Let's get it.
But most of all, do what you can where you are.
Okay.
With or without me, do what you can. Okay. Where you are.
I love that. And don't forget, you can follow us on all social media. I am at Ramses Ja. Q is I am Q Ward. We are Civic Cipher on all platforms. Be sure to give us a follow. And until next week, y'all, peace.